There you go. Thank you, hon. It's okay.
Pick it up. If something's on the floor from me, I can't do it. I didn't.
It's all right. I heard it roll off. I just was doing
Like
something
with
else.
that, I told you I cleaned the other day.
There's another one right here. I'm gonna clean it up in a minute. I just saw it
Like,
a
I
second
can't
ago.
see it. It has to be like in front of me.
All right.
That is the one time.
We're going to start our unit of systems. Systems you can solve any way. We're going to show you a bunch of different ways to solve it. When you get to your test, you choose whatever you want to. Okay. So today we're going to start with substitution. And the only time that I would do substitution is if it looks like this, y equals and y equals. Okay. So here's what you're actually doing. You're going to take one equation and plug it in for the other one. You're going to take one equation and plug it in for the other one. So I'm going to take this negative 8x minus 5, and I'm going to replace this y. Okay, I'll try not to use blue again. That was way too dark. So this is what it's going to be. Instead of y, I'm going to use negative 8x minus 5, and then I'm going to finish out the equation x plus 4. This way, I don't have an x and a y in my equation. I just have a single x. And then you guys from chapter 1, from unit 1, know how to solve this. We're solving for x, so we need to get those x's together. I tell you to move the smallest one. I don't care which one you move. So the smallest one on this one will be negative 8. So how do I get the 8 on the other side? So then these on this side cancel out. It leaves me with negative 5 equals, remember this is 1x. So 1 plus 8 is 9. And then bring down your 4. I'm solving for x. What's on the same side but not with it? How do I get rid of a positive 4? Minus 4. I get negative 9 equals 9x because your 4's cancel out. And then how do I get rid of that 9 with the x? Perfect. And x equals negative 1. Now, we are not finished because remember when we started, we had x and y, right? Okay. Pick one of those two equations, whichever one looks easier. So pick the first one or the second one. I like the second one because it doesn't have any negatives. It doesn't look very hard. It looks a lot easier. And you're going to rewrite it. And then you're going to take this x and put it right there. So instead of x, you're going to use negative 1. So this is what it's going to look like. Y equals, instead of x, we said x was negative 1 right here, plus 4. So you're just plugging it in. Negative 1 plus 4 is positive 3. Once you get your y, you're completely finished. You can either leave it like this, or if you have multiple choice, you will see it written as an x, y coordinate. Our x was negative 1. Our y was 3. This is your final answer. Okay. Again, if it's multiple choice, if it's just something that I'm having you practice, you're not going to have to write it as a coordinate, but I would suggest that you keep writing it like that. The final exam will have it like this. Okay. All right, same thing. I'm going to take the first one. I told you I wouldn't use blue again, didn't I? I'm going to take the first one and put it into the second one. So this long part is going to replace y because we don't want the y. So what we highlighted was negative 6x plus 10 replaces that y. And we're going to set it equal to the rest of the equation, negative 4x plus 4. It does not matter which x you move, it's up to you. So which x do y'all want to move? Okay, how do you move a negative 4x? So your 4x's cancel out. Use your calculator if you need to. Don't try to do it in your head if you get a little bit confused sometime, or do it in your head and then check in your calculator to see if you're doing it right. So negative 6 plus 4 is negative 2x. You're going to bring down that positive 10 equals to 4. So make sure you bring down everything that you didn't mark out. What's the next step? Subtract 10. Your 10s cancel out, bring down your whole negative 2x. And then you can use your calculator. 4 minus 10 is negative 6. Last step, divide negative 2. Positive 3, perfect. Pick either equation, it doesn't matter which one looks easiest. It does not matter which one you pick. Just go back to the beginning and pick one. So I'm going to pick the bottom one because it just looks a little smaller. I'm going to move it over in just a second. There you go. You're going to take this x, which was 3, and put it in for that x right there. So instead of negative 4x, we're going to have negative 4 times 3 plus 4. Negative 4 times 3 is negative 12. Plus 4 is negative 8. Remember, it's an x, y coordinate. Our x was 3. Our y was negative 8. So the hard part is the beginning, making sure that you put it in the right spot. Okay, so right now they're pretty easy. 3 and 4 are the same way. I'm going to come back to those, but I want to move down to number 5. No, number 6. 3, 4, and 5 are exactly the same as those. I'm going to move down to number 6. All right, and we're going to come back and do these because I want to do as many as I possibly can. So if we look at number 6 compared to like number 4, see how number 4 has y equals and y equals? This one does not. So you want to find the one that is y equals. This is the only time I would do substitution, which is this equation, and plug it into the other one, okay? So plug in the y equals equation into the other one. So as you copy down the first equation, it is 8x minus 7. Instead of y, I'm going to put a parenthesis and all of this other pink that I've highlighted, the other equation, 7x minus 21. And then continue with my equation, equals negative 17. That is as hard as substitution gets. Everything else you should know how to do solving wise, okay? So how would I solve this one? This one looks crazy. Have to distribute. Make sure that you distribute the whole negative 7 in here, okay? The whole negative 7. So we're going to keep that 8x. If you have to use your calculator, negative 7 times 7x is negative 49x. Again, if you need to use your calculator, I'll show you on here. Try to get it all on there. Negative 7 times negative 21, because those are big numbers, is 147. It's a positive 147 equals negative 17. What would I have to do now? You can, but what else do you see? That is perfectly fine. That is not the wrong answer, okay? What else do you see? What do you mean? Yes, right here. Combine your like terms. You could do that after the 147. That's perfectly fine. So I'm going to combine these. We had 8 minus 49 gives us negative 41x plus 147 equals negative 17. Perfect. Now what do? Now you can subtract that 147. These cancel out. Make sure you bring down the whole negative 41x. And then negative 17 minus 147 gives you negative 164. Last step on this part. divide by negative 41. And we get x equals 4. Little tiny number for all that work. Is everybody okay with the 4? You good? Promise? You good now? Okay. All right, so then your second part of your equation, take either one, it doesn't matter which one looks easier, the second one, okay? It looks much easier, so take that second one. Y equals 7x minus 21. We have that x is 4, so we're gonna plug it right there in that x. So y equals 7 times 4 minus 21. You can put all that in your calculator at one time, and you don't have to do it in multiple steps. And you get 7. Remember, it's an XY coordinate. Your X was 4, your Y was 7. And that's it. All right, I'm going to move to number 8 so that I can leave number 6 on the screen while we do number 8, just in case you need to look back at it, okay? So this time, here's our Y equals that we're going to replace Y with. Okay, we're going to replace it. So how do I start this? Think about how we started the last one. Is it equals yet? What are we doing right here? But we don't want Y. What do we want? 4x. Yeah, so we just got to put parentheses. That's the only thing you got to remember. 4x minus 8. And then finish it out. After the Y, it says equals 5. And again, this equation doesn't matter. You can mark this out and then just put that in there if it helps you look at it that way. Okay, you do whatever you want to. They're your notes. Okay. So then the first thing we need to do is what? Distribute, because we have parentheses. So we have negative 8x plus 2 times 4x is 8x. 2 times negative 8 is negative 16. And it equals 5. Watch this. What happens? The next one, we did 8 minus 49. What would we do here? What is negative 8 plus 8? What happens? They cancel each other out, right? So then write down what you see. Negative 16 equals 5. We have seen this before in our equations. Is this true or false? Is negative 16 equal to 5? No, so this is false because they're not equal. So remember, a false means that there is no solution. And we will know exactly why that happens soon. Okay. That's it.
Because it gives us a whole number.
Now, if it gives you two numbers that are equal, like if this would have finished with negative 16 equals negative 16, that's true and everything works. Okay, so we might get one of those in a few minutes. Look at number 7. Look at number 7. We're going to take this y equals and put it in for that y. And remember what I told you, if it makes it easier for you to not look at this, we're going to throw that in there. So we're just going to rewrite this top equation. We have 3x plus 6, but instead of y, we're plugging in the other orange, 2x minus 16. And then finish out the equation, equals negative 21. What's our first step? Distribute the 6. So we get 3x plus 6 times 2 is 12x. If you're not sure, 6 times negative 16 is negative 96. Use your calculator as much as you need to. Minus 21. Same thing we did on the last one. We can't have two x's, so we're going to put those together. What is 3 plus 12? 15x. Rewrite your equation. Minus 96 equals negative 21. And then we're back to easy solving. So how do we solve for x? Add 96. Again, if you're not sure, negative 21, add 96 gives me 75. So I'm bringing down my 15x, and it equals 75. Last step. Divide by 15. And you get x equals 5. All right, so we found x, so we got to find y. Use the easiest equation. It's going to be that last one, y equals 2x minus 16. And we're going to take that 5 and put it right there. Okay, so take that 5 and put it in there. Y equals 2 times 5 minus 16. You can put that in your calculator. If you want to use those parentheses, that's fine. And we get negative 6. What is our coordinate? Remember that it's an XY coordinate, so 5 has to go first, and then negative 6. Is everybody good? All right. So these 3, 1 through 5, I would do a different way, and we'll learn that very last. Okay, we'll learn that very last. But 6, 7, and 8, the reason I would do substitution with this one is because one variable is by itself. So this one has y equals, this one has y equals. Okay, when it's both, I would rather you do it by graphing, and I will teach you that. That's the very last thing we teach. Okay. All right. Check out your next ones. It's the same thing. We have y equals right here and a y at the top. So we're going to just put that 2x right there. So start writing the top equation. Negative 2x minus 5. When you get to the orange, put a parenthesis. Replace it. This time we just have 2x. Close your parenthesis. Finish your equation equals 24. We have parentheses, so we need to distribute or multiply. What is it? Negative 5 times 2x. Negative 10x. Don't forget your x. Add your like terms. Negative 2 minus 10 is negative 12x, which equals 24. Last step. Divide by that negative 12 and watch your signs. And I get negative 2. Which equation looks easiest, top or bottom? Absolutely the bottom. So y equals 2x. We're going to change that x in for this negative 2. So we're going to write our equation y equals 2, put a parenthesis when we get to the orange, and replace it with negative 2. There's nothing else on the end, so this is as good as it gets. 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. Remember, it's an XY coordinate, so your x was negative 2, your y was negative 4. That's it. That's literally all you do. All right, so then you have questions like 11 through 15 where they don't have anything solved, like it's not y equals or x equals or anything like that. So you have to make it into that. So one of them you're going to have to make that way. So here's what you're going to do. If we're looking at number 11, we're going to look for a single variable. This has a 5, this has a 7, this has a 7. This one's all by itself. You guys see that? So I want to get it by itself. How do I get rid of this plus 7y? How do I get rid of a plus 7y? Subtract it. So that's what I'm going to do. So then what I have is x equals, and you can just write it down. It doesn't matter what order it's in. -5 minus 7y. That is your new equation to use. This one says x equals, so we're going to highlight it, but we're going to put it in for x because it says x equals. It's the same thing. The only difference was I had to move that 7 first. Okay, so it's just one little extra step. So then rewrite your equation. We'll make a line so you know it's different. 5, I got to the orange, so I'm going to put a parenthesis and replace it with the other part. -5 minus 7y. And then keep going with the rest of my equation. Plus 7y equals 3. Now it's exactly like everything else we've done. What do I have to do first? Distribute. 5 times -5 is -25. 5 times -7y is -35y. Then I have a plus 7y equals 3. Add your like terms. I get -25 minus 28y equals 3. Solving for y, what do I need to get rid of? How do I get rid of a -25? Add 25. Bring down your whole -28. Don't forget that negative in front of it. Equals 3 plus 25 is 28. Last step. We're going to divide by -28. And what do we get for y? -1. Go back to your beginning. I'm going to cover this for a minute and I'm going to uncover it, okay? Go back to your beginning, which were these two equations. Which one looks to be the easiest one? The bottom one. So that's the one I'm going to rewrite. Does it matter which one you pick? No, it does not matter. We're going to take this -1 and it's y equals -1 and plug it in for the y. Make sure that you plug it in the right spot. I will tell you that these are this set right here are the longest problems that you're going to solve this week. Okay, they are the longest ones. So x plus 7 times -1 equals -5. Distribute or multiply. 7 times -1 is -7. And then how do I solve? Not add negative, but just add, right? Just add. So we get x equals -5 plus 7 is 2. Here's why I keep writing this. Remember, it's an x, y coordinate. So what did we get for x? 2, and we got -1 for y. Make sure you write them in the correct order. We solve for y first, but make sure it goes in the end. All right, we're going to do a couple more of these and then we'll stop. Okay, a couple more and then we'll stop. So if we look at number 12, what variable is all by itself? Okay, is the x all by itself? What's it got in front of it? I don't want to work with that negative. Is there another variable that's real clean all by itself? The y in the top. Does everybody see that? I don't even want this negative because that's one more step that I have to do, okay? So I want the single one. How do I get this 4 to the other side? So I'm going to do this up here. You said subtract 4x. And then I'm going to write it right below this one. It is y equals, and I can write what I see, negative 22 minus 4x. Okay. So these are the two equations that I'm looking at now. I made a new equation. This y is going to go in for the little one in the first equation. Okay. So that top equation right there that I have separated, so we're not even looking at these anymore. So just those two are what we're looking at. I'm going to start writing it down. So negative x minus 8. When I get to the orange y, I put a parenthesis, and I replace it with the big orange. Negative 22 minus 4x. And then I keep writing my equation, equals negative 10. What's the first thing I need to do? Distribute. So I get negative x. Again, if you can't do it in your head, that's fine. I don't expect you to. I get positive 176. Negative 8 times negative 4 is a positive 32x equals negative 10. We're going to add our like terms. We have two x's right here, so a negative 1x and a 32. So we're going to add those together, negative 1 plus 32. And then rewrite everything else. Plus 176 equals negative 10. How do I solve? Subtract 176. I get 31x equals negative 186. And again, you can put that in your calculator, not a big deal. Very last step on this side. Divide by 31. So negative 186 divided by 31. We get x is negative 6. Go back to the original two equations. Whichever one looks the easiest, I think the top one does. It's usually the one that you mess with. And rewrite it. We're going to take this x and plug in for that x. So we're going to get 4. We're going to put a parenthesis in negative 6 plus y equals negative 22. Distribute or multiply. 4 times negative 6 is negative 24. And then how do I get y by itself? What's my next step? Add 24. I get y equals 2. Remember, it's an xy coordinate. Your x was negative 6. Your y was 2. All right. We'll get number 15. I think 15 is probably the worst one on the page. Which equation has the single variable in it? And how do I move that 4x to the other side? You guys can do it just like this. Just write it down, subtract 4x. So your new equations that you're working with are this negative 6x plus 8y equals negative 24. And then I subtracted the 4x to the other side and got 16 minus 4x. If you have to write it all the way out, write it all the way out. You cannot do the homework for this chapter without paper, okay? If you're sitting in class, I have it printed off for you, so I'll give you guys that quiz printed. If you're at home, print it off. If not, get some paper and copy down the problems. You cannot do these without it. Does that make sense? All right. So here's our two equations. We got y equals, and we have a little y right there we're going to plug it into. So we start by writing that top equation, negative 6x plus 8. I came to the orange y, so I put a parenthesis and rewrite the big orange, 16 minus 4x. And then I finish out my equation, equals negative 24. All right. Distribute like we have been. We get negative 6x. If you can't do it in your head, use that calculator. Don't feel ashamed at all. We get 128. 8 times negative 4 is negative 32x and equals negative 24. We want to add our like terms. So negative 6, do not change these signs. Read it. Put it in your calculator just like you read it. Negative 6 minus 32. Negative 6 minus 32 gives us negative 38x. Finish with your plus 128 equals negative 24. Again, do not change the sign unless you move it to the other side. We got to get x by itself, so we subtract 128. Again, if you're not comfortable with it in your head, just like you see it, negative 24 minus 128. Bring down your negative 38x, and we got negative 152. So you guys can see that, negative 152. Finish it out, divide by negative 38. And you get 4. Pick your easiest equation from the very beginning. So usually, again, the one that you change is the easiest. So 4x plus y equals 16. We got x equals 4. Make sure you plug it in for the x. So we have 4. Instead of x, we have times 4. Plus y equals 16. What is 4 times 4? So 16 plus y equals 16. Don't freak out when this happens. You're going to subtract 16. What is 16 minus 16? Your answer should be 0. Don't get freaked out and be like, oh my God, they cancel out. Yes, they do. They cancel out to 0. Okay. So remember, it's an x, y coordinate. So our x was 4. Our y was 0. All right. To give you time to do your quiz, I'm going to go ahead and stop there. If you guys have more questions, let me know. If you don't get to work on that quiz, and like I said, you can't do it without working it out. So don't think that you're going to sit here and just be able to do it in your head. It's not going to happen. How many of these did I do in my head? No, I can't. I can't do it. So I know you're not going to be able to either. Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing and stop recording. Did you get that? You good?